So today live stream with incredible nurse practitioner Samantha Thury. Hopefully I pronounced that last name right, but Samantha has 15 years of health and wellness experience under her belt. We're talking real world experience, in the trench experience. Originally from Ohio, she's actually resonated in Austin, Texas here. She owns Happy Body ATX, which is a aesthetic wellness clinic. So what I'll do here is wait for her to load in from here. But Samantha and I spoke about last week here, and we dove into a ton of topics just about longevity, what we'd like to do with our clients, and kind of the other additional tools that help within the functional medicine space. Samantha, like I had said, is very well versed in peptides, hormones, and even esthetician, I believe, aesthetics, as she had mentioned. So, wait for her to log in here. But it's going to be a really good chat. We're going to talk about a ton of things just about how to heal at the root cause, because as her being a functional nurse practitioner and me being a functional health coach, functional nutritionist, every single day we're helping clients heal the root cause. Unlike conventional Western medicine that just focuses on symptom management, we truly try to solve the root cause of issues. So another thing that we will talk about today is pretty much how to bring out your inner self confidence, because that's a huge part in the whole transformation journey. So, load on. Samantha,
Hi, how are
good.
you?
Can you hear me? All good?
Yes, I'm improvising. My ring light, this is kind of funny. My ring light just like snapped in half right before we started.
Oh, I've had that one too.
It's like
That's
maybe I
something.
was adjusting a little too hard. Maybe that's a good lesson for all of us to not force ourselves into different
Yeah.
things,
Well,
right?
yeah, I don't know what you need a ring light for. It looks like you got that
Oh
Austin
yes,
on
it
you
is a
already.
beautiful day here today.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful. We have some nice sunshine and some breeze. It's quite windy, but we can't complain about the weather here
Oh,
today.
that's
So
awesome.
we'll
Awesome.
see who decides to jump on here. It's always kind of interesting when's a good time today of day for people to listen in to us, right?
Yeah, it's always nice though too because it will able to put this on our feed, so people will be able to watch the replay. If not, they're good.
Yeah, I'm
So
so grateful to be here with you and for this subject matter for sure. I think it's critical in today's world to address.
yeah, yeah. Well, I got a handful of different structures and things here, but I think a big thing is that we'll introduce ourselves. So I'll start with you first, Samantha. I mentioned that you've had a collective 15 plus years in health and wellness. I also said that you were a nurse practitioner as well,
Mhm.
and you're also a published scientist professor for Forbes Councils. So can you kind of elaborate a little bit more about yourself, maybe your origin story? Kind of, I know you 101, we talked about you're from Ohio and everything, but can you kind of
Yeah.
go into that?
Yeah, we're both Midwesterners, right? You're
Yeah,
from
Midwest.
Minnesota,
Yeah,
right?
Midwest. Yeah. By the way, just got a huge snowstorm, but
Oh,
regardless,
sorry. Yeah.
we're good.
Um, but yeah, so basically, I grew up in Ohio, went to Ohio State for undergrad, then moved to Miami for grad school, and really was exposed to a lot of different aspects of healthcare from a very early age. So when I was a baby, I was diagnosed with something called retinoblastoma in my right eye. And so it's a type of cancer that typically affects children. And so when I was 5 months old, they inoculated my right eye. So my right eye is a prosthesis, and so I sort of was entrenched and enthralled from a really young age in medicine and in nutrition, even. So I remember sitting in like first grade, my first memory of reading a nutrition label and really trying to understand what it said. And just kind of like really intently studying nutrition labels and what does that mean. And anyhow, fast forward to becoming a nurse practitioner, working in the field, working in Of course, my dog wants to be heard right now. In
Or
my family, my father had a chiropractic clinic growing up and weight loss clinics as well. And it was really eye opening to see what was going on in the world because I started working in hospitals and then also in psychiatric hospitals and then with children. And seeing sort of, Diego, how broken our system really is. It's more of a sick care
mm,
system versus a healthcare system. Like, how do we stay healthy? And I started understanding also from a young age that disease prevention was really important to me. So preventing, from getting cancer, from getting diabetes or heart disease. How do we prevent these issues from happening? And I can attribute some of that to growing up with my father being a chiropractor and his dedication, I guess you could say, to fitness in and of itself,
mhm.
and watching that. And also, I'm sure you've obviously developed a relationship with fitness, right? Where you
100%.
incorporate that very
Oh
much
yeah.
so into your life and your clients' lives. And so when you're in those atmospheres and you start meeting people, right, that are also very on the forefront of what's available to stay fit and young. And then fast forward to working in the field of urology, where testosterone started to be very highly prescribed to men during the aging journey. And then we started trying to figure out how to prescribe that to women. So it's really an interesting journey because with Happy Body ATX, the practice that I founded 6 years ago, our goal is to help people live their healthiest, happiest, most confident life.
Hmm.
And I think that we're one of the few clinics that really outright addresses what is bothering you, like what is making you feel confident, what's draining your energy versus do you feel like your soul's purpose is in order to, and not even people that don't want to go there spiritually, but what is your sort of way of feeling fulfilled in life, right? And um, I, as well as you, in our conversation last week, we realized the value in encouraging others to then bring in their own self confidence to make the right choices, to make the choices that are going to help them on their health journey for the long haul, not because, they see you or they see myself and they receive those counseling services for an hour every couple months. That's not going to, replace all of their daily decision making and all of their thought and mindset processes, right? So, um, and I really enjoyed our conversation last week, by the way. I loved discussing, I was really intrigued by how much knowledge you have
Hmm.
regarding breaking down what labs are and what they mean for people and how they
Yeah.
affect their health. And I think that's really the beauty of functional wellness, integrative wellness. I'd say my knowledge base has grown exponentially in the last decade since graduating from school, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that's crucial. That's definitely crucial. I mean, obviously, when I graduate and everything, I mean, everything I talk about today on the day-to-day basis is from my own self-education, and I think that's
mhm,
probably, I think you would attest with that too. Like, it's
mhm,
all about what you want to go and attain, because unfortunately, even if you're studying more of like natural medicine, naturopath or just traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, kind of what I was doing, you still have to self-educate if you're trying to
mhm,
diverse yourself. And, for instance, you can call yourself entrepreneur. So if you really want to, innovate in the field and everything like that, you want to pretty much succeed
Mhm.
in your business, you have to do that self education. So I think that's crucial for you to speak on because you said you graduated from Ohio State and all the things, but it does you have to induce self knowledge, self application for you to
Mhm.
really bring that wisdom, so to say.
Yes, and all these certifications are great, but I think that it's sort of a testament to once you achieve that certification, then digging deeper and surrounding yourself with people
Yeah.
that are really knowledgeable, right? Whether it's clients who can connect you with resources or other people in the field. I say it kind of takes a village to stay healthy. And so, and also to create a practitioner, really, it takes a village, right? So you have to surround yourself with people who are committed to knowledge at all times and invest into going to conferences and meeting new people that are going to challenge you. And also, like you say, stay on the forefront because people are going to start asking you a lot of questions, and sometimes you may or may not know the answer, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't find out the answer, right? So,
Mm.
I think that's the difference when you're in sort of a entrepreneur type role with things is that customer service isn't just about uh making sure someone's receiving the service. It's about impacting their life, and having that ripple effect of them being able to go into the world. And I love your patients' testimonies about how, they're able to be a better mom or they're able to be a better X, Y, or Z type person.
Yeah.
And that's really valuable because it's not about adding years to our life with longevity. Yes, we want to live a long time and have a long, healthy life, but it's also centralized around adding life to our years,
Yeah, it's
right?
it's definitely that quality of life because when you get to those years, yeah, it's yeah, like you said, it's not just only about longevity, you living longer, it's about you living more fulfilled with more vitality. And so, we home back in now and we talk about the clients that we see on a daily basis. We have either
Mhm.
the mom that's very stressed out, can't lose the midsection belly fat, low confidence, fatigue, brain fog. We have all these people. We have people with gut issues. We have people with IBS, bloating, abdominal pain,
Yeah.
low
Hormone
sex drive. We have
imbalances.
we have all these things. So
Yeah.
you personally, what do you like to do with your clients at your clinic inside your practice to help address these problems at what is called the root cause?
Yes, so I really like to assess. So there's a phrase in that we learned in nursing school that really applies to any field called ADPI: assess, diagnose, plan, implement, evaluate. And so I would say the assessment token is something that I really try to train other practitioners and when I'm teaching nurse practitioner students, I really try to emphasize how important it is to put empathy at the forefront of every visit. So you don't really know when that patient calls your office or they make the appointment or they show up that day, what went on in their world before they got in front of you. So
Yeah.
let's say maybe their spouse just had a surgery. I see a lot of couples,
Oh, it's
because one
powerful.
starts to, yeah, so one person starts to see me and then they kind of nudge their partner in to see us. And
Yeah.
so, like maybe their husband just had surgery and they're just kind of having a rough day, or they rearranged their schedule a couple of times to make this happen. And then the office staff was kind of confusing about things, or their kids are screaming, or who knows, right? Um, and so it's really important. I'm sort of chatty, like in the norm, but when I'm in assessment, I really pause and give people that space to divulge information, to explain what's really happening in their world so that I can help them navigate that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we take a health history and look at their lab results
Yeah,
and
but that's
all of
important though.
that.
Let's pause right there. I mean, what she's talking about, what Samantha's talking about, is one of the most crucial parts for the transformation, and that's the emotional change. I
Hmm.
mean, look at, so the thing is that we're not trying to diet or coach the person individually. We're trying to help the environment that that individual is in, and that's powerful. I mean, you're going into that, and that's, I love that because it's so important. Because see, we're not talking about her clients going in on getting on. She hasn't said anything about a scale. She hasn't talked about any lab work yet. She's literally talking about the emotional things,
Hmm.
and this is key because a lot of these emotional things, husband, wife, surgery, the craziness from every day being mom or being a father and being having all these responsibilities,
Hmm.
those things are some of the true reasons to why an individual could be dealing with these health issues.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to note that that I love that you're just talking about, like, because I could see a lot of people on the other hand would be like, yeah, first we have a patient that comes in, we do this, physical, we do,
Hmm.
we measure their weight, we measure their height, all these analytical things, but it's like,
Hmm.
no, we got to get to know this person
Hmm.
on an emotional level, because I mean, we're there to help them and heal them. We're there to actually
Totally.
solve it, the issue.
Building
But yeah, it's awesome.
that rapport with your clients really builds that lifelong relationship with them, and it's not, it comes from a genuine place. These people are vulnerable, and I kind of joke, I know you're youthful and we both look probably a bit younger than we really are, and that sort of thing. But when they're all my babies in my
Yeah.
mind, it's like they're coming to me. It's my job to hold space for them emotionally, because if I don't build that trust, if you don't build trust with your clientele, they're not going to tell you what's really going on.
Yeah.
They're not going to be comfortable. Like with my patient this morning, she was a little flustered. She thought her visit was in office, it was virtual. I had to rearrange her recently because my son was sick, like all these things, right? But
Mhm.
at the same time, we were able to laugh together and joke together. And she was able to tell me, oh, I still get my sugar cravings. I really am struggling with that. But someone's not going to open up and tell you their habits and if they drink alcohol or something like that. A lot of practices are like churn and burn, right, Diego? Like in Western medicine, it's like in and out visits. It's not really
Yeah,
sitting down with them.
that's why I'm talking about the future is the coach, because the
Mhm.
future is being with you every single day, being in there in the trenches, being there to support you,
Mhm.
give you the accountability, and give you the pretty much obviously the knowledge and the application you need to each and every single day in, day out, to follow what you and I have for them. And that's
And
important.
it's really more of a surrendering into,
Yeah.
right? Rather, people always think it's like more of doing, doing, doing when it comes to anything in life, of wellness
Oh yeah.
or
Yeah.
work or whatever.
Well,
Like, I
I
have to do
mean,
more.
yeah, that's great because yeah, well, I mean
But
the
really, you're
first
taking it away, right? Like, you're
yeah,
taking away the
yeah,
habits, you're taking away the toxic relationships, the toxic thoughts.
yeah. Wow, that's true. That's so true. I mean, I think that a lot of the times I like to talk to my clients and I'm like, some of the times we're not so low energy from doing too much. We're so low energy from doing too little that brings us pretty much life. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I like to tell my clients too, because sometimes if we don't give our body and our life what it needs for that energy and that vitality, then it's not from doing too much. The thing is it's crazy because most people come to me and they want to do these expensive functional lab tests, which I'm just the good guy giving them out for free.
Mm.
And so they want to do all these lab tests, but I'm like, you don't need a
They
lab
want the
test. You
data. A
you
lot of
need
people want the
no,
data.
yeah, they need to look inside though. They need to look inside
Hmm.
themselves. They got to look inside their emotions, what they're doing, what they're feeding themselves.
That's
Not food.
beautiful.
We're not talking about food. We're talking about mentally, emotionally. What are you feeding yourself? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and if you're over here arguing, you're in a toxic relationship, you're in an environment that's not going to help you grow, you're not doing these things, then I mean, the piece of paper ain't going to do anything for that. Like the piece of paper is just there. And you know, that's important because, you know, that's going to be
It's
powerful
so
thing.
critical, and I love that you're mentioning it because people kind of have this concept, especially when it comes to explaining diet and exercise, that it's about following these strict rules. And yeah, you're not going to go out and eat a half a dozen of, chocolate chip cookies, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, the energy that you have, and there's a lot of research surrounding this, the energy you have when you're doing something affects how the food affects your body. For
Yeah.
example, we're mostly made of water, right? And so there's all of these studies now that if water is in a room where someone is happy, that water is going to freeze into a different shape than if someone were mean and bitter or whatever,
Yeah.
or angry or whatnot. So it's just trying to teach that shift of empowerment and confidence, which leads to resilience.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
because there's so many toxins that we deal with on this
Yeah.
planet,
Oh yeah.
whether they're chemical or, parasitic or environmental, than
Yeah.
what we've ever had to encounter,
Yeah.
So we can't really, I don't know if you ever saw that show growing up, but the image is coming to mind of like Bubble Boy.
Hmm. Yeah.
Did you ever see it where, like, he's like in a bubble, right? Like we
Yeah.
can't go around in a
Yeah, we
a,
can't
a
do that.
bubble, right? So
Yeah.
we have to teach our bodies. We're not, the goal is to be able to travel and to be able to be around people, right? So it's all about building the immunity up, but also, um, just keeping in mind, like you said, like replacing that critic with a cheerleader. And the more that we get, all of us who are
Yeah.
practitioners, whether you're an acupuncturist, breath work, personal trainer, nutritionist, dietitian, whatever your role is within the healthcare team for that person, to keep reiterating that. And I think we're hitting on something, Diego, that's not always commonly practiced.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the thing is that I think that emotional change and the environmental change is the two peak catalysts to what truly helps my clients
Mm-hmm.
transform, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. And like I said in the beginning of this podcast, you and I bring real world trench experience. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're dealing with people every single day. We're not dealing with, these, whatever reality TV stars. We're dealing with the everyday person. We're dealing with people that
Right.
have real lives, that have children, that work, and all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, you need not just the knowledge and the tools to not only transform their life, but you need the psychological help to help that
Mm-hmm.
person propel them into the transformation.
Mm-hmm.
I have people come to me and my clients come to me all the time, and most of the times when we have our first call with my client, they pretty much tear up almost 90% of the time,
Mm-hmm.
because it is an emotional thing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't like what you see in the mirror, that's obviously an emotional
Mm-hmm.
issue, but it also, if your life's not where it wants to be right now, which, that it causes a lot of distress to the individual,
Mm-hmm.
to the person.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on to things like I do want to talk about some of the tangible things, perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
like kind of like what an individual could be dealing with if they are dealing with these problems. Because I liked how you talked about toxins. You talked about
Mm-hmm.
toxins, and then we talked about toxic people. We talked about toxic environments.
Mm-hmm.
But what are some of the things also in our environment that's toxic that is causing us these issues of the brain fog, the fatigue, the low sex drive, and all those things?
Well, 100%, the screens make a big impact on our brain health, in our retina health.
Really?
Well, the brain waves are affected. So this is why screens are so addictive, is because it sets off dopamine in the brain,
Mm-hmm.
right? So and it's sort of like a game, like the algorithms and all of that, right? So there are like the the Blu-ray light glasses, right? But it's also the concept of like shifting, not always just staring at the screen for hours on end, or putting like, keeping it darker. So there's all kinds of like little biohacking things for that. But I think more importantly, the isolation that we do environmentally, we need to get out in nature a lot more. So this is something there's a lot of research surrounding nature and its ability to help the body heal. There's a gentleman who he wrote a book called The Nature Cure. His
Mm-hmm.
name's Dean. I'm so sorry. I'll
Yeah, yeah,
mention
no
his
worries.
name. But anyways, I think Dean Hall. Yeah, Dean Hall. And so, anyways, he actually beat leukemia and lymphoma a couple of times from swimming in a cold river. So there's a lot of evidence that, like cold plunges and all of that, it really activates your body's ability to sort of like the autophagy of the bad cells. So getting rid of like the precancerous cells and things like that.
Yeah.
So there's ways that we can manipulate the body through sauna, detoxing, but also making sure our minerals are healthy. So a lot of us, like you probably do a ton of coaching on protein intake and also making sure people are hydrated enough
Yeah,
because
100%. I mean,
chronic
yeah,
dehydration is
yeah, and
major.
that's a good topic because I think it would lead into the next thing, and we talk about toxins, and you're talking about blue light, which is incredible, and all the things too. And I think another thing with the toxicity is that it disrupts our gut microbiome. And so
Hmm.
when we have a disrupted gut microbiome, it also throws off those neurotransmitters like you talked about. You talked about dopamine
Hmm.
getting already depleted from the blue light that we live in. Okay, now that's one layer. Okay, now our dopamine's also depleted because of our poor gut health from all
Hmm.
the toxicity that's in our food,
Hmm.
in our environment. So now you got these two layers, and now our dopamine shot. And so now, after 8 cups of coffee and after getting 8 hours of sleep, you still have no energy because it's actually your dopamine that's shot.
Hmm.
And so, and talking about nutrient status too, I mean, I think a lot of people out here are taking these supplements, eating all these different things, doing these different things, but their body and their gut microbiome is not even absorbing what they're doing.
Hmm.
And as you know, inside my coaching practice program, whatever you want to call it, we do a lot of gut testing. And I'll tell you this, majority of people that are suffering from bloating, abdominal pain, constipation,
Hmm.
diarrhea, those type of things, those people are dealing with something called SIBO, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. But
Hmm.
this is crucial because if you're dealing with this overgrowth of bacteria, as you know, it's going to
Hmm.
throw off your hormone balance.
Hmm.
You're obviously not going to make enough testosterone, which I love that you talked about women and testosterone because I have a lot of women too, and we have an HRT clinic with us too. And that's
Hmm.
so crucial, especially if you're getting into those perimenopausal, menopausal years.
Hmm.
But yeah, when you are talking about hormones with your clients, what are some significant improvements you've seen your women that have used your hormones, and how can
Hmm.
hormones benefit someone with the removal from?
I love hormones. So the name of my journal article is Supplements, Hormones, and Evidence. I've lectured on this many times. It's one of my favorite things to discuss because basically hormones are the gasoline for the body's nervous system. So if you think of it like that, of course we need gasoline to run, right? Like the car needs gas to run. So the reason why I love helping balance hormones is because of the mental health difference that
There we
it
go.
creates.
That's
So it helps the men and the women. I say
I.
that hormone balancing
Oh
is
yeah.
confidence inducing.
Oh yeah.
So, I always, and my joke is who's the most confident in the world? The 17-year-old boy that's like raging with testosterone. He thinks any girl he asks out,
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating,
Yeah.
right?
100. Well,
Um,
like, that's the truth though. And here's a fact. Hopefully this don't get taken down. But the thing is that there's so many studies that prove that taking bioidentical testosterone in men, most likely probably female too, if they did
mhm.
studies, is more effective than taking SSRI medication, like fluoxetine and things like that. Now, here's the thing. Now, there's conflicting things, but I
Sure,
do want to mention that
sure.
because the thing is that I think a lot of the times also serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which are SSRIs, that's a whole
Mhm,
different topic. But I do think when you hormones affect the way that you think, you
mhm,
perceive the world. As you just
mhm,
mentioned, your nervous system. And
mhm,
so many people are dealing with poor mental health problems that come
mhm.
from just hormonal imbalances. Obviously we
A
talk about
hundred
PMS,
percent.
PMDD, we talk about migraines, insomnia, weight gain.
PCOS,
Yep.
age-related anxiety and depression. Because, I mean, listen, getting older is not for the weak. Okay. You look different, you feel different, your body reacts differently. Also, what really isn't taught to us from a young age is the grieving process of aging, of losing people that you love,
Yeah.
right? Because as we get older, our loved ones get older, and also this grief that comes with that I've seen a lot of people go through, like uh, with becoming a parent, even,
Oh my
right? And you
God.
see that with moms and dads
Oh
too,
yeah.
because you're sort of
I'm a little bit
a
before
whole
that.
new version of what
They
was
did.
that?
I said they come to me a little bit before that. I mean, well, I mean, I guess it does go into hormones. I mean, a lot of people come to me with infertility
Okay.
issues, and a lot of the times the female, unfortunately, has had a few miscarriages, and
Mhm.
it's really because the doctor or someone hasn't really looked at her progesterone levels. So that's a whole. I know that's a little bit of a topic,
Another thing that
but
I found really effective on that topic of
yeah.
infertility, because that seems to be a big thing for men
Oh,
and
and
for
then
women these
yeah, like
days.
I mean, men's like testes, which just holds their sperm, is just getting
Mhm,
depleted. Like there's just so many graphs that show that.
mhm,
But I have specific modalities I do to help with
mhm,
men get their pretty much fertility back.
mhm,
But then on
mhm,
the female side of things, like you were mentioning, I think a lot of it can come from low progesterone a lot of the
mhm,
times. Which I'm just very, like blessed to be able to have that clinic with me. But
mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
going into your topic, yeah, being a mother.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that I have found that NAD, like, which is a precursor for your mitochondria,
Yeah,
it's a nicotinic acid precursor to B6, and so what it does is supports the mitochondria of the cell, which is like the turnover, the
yeah.
energy stores of the cell. So I've seen that very beneficial for men and women with
That's really good to
fertility.
know. Yeah, because
Yeah.
for me specifically, I like to ramp up T3, which is
Okay.
I guess it's
The
like the step
thyroid. Yeah.
after you would say putting
Thyroid's
in and
really important. No, thyroid, one of the best things if somebody's borderline on thyroid, to get their thyroid working better is to optimize their minerals, and specifically their iodine. As long as
okay,
they don't
yeah,
have
yeah,
severe Hashimoto's, there's tons of studies that show that, like, a well-absorbed iodine supplement can normalize free
yeah.
T3 levels.
Yeah. Well, I got
So,
shameless
yeah.
plug that I got a supplement I love putting my clients on. It's called Thyroid Boost Plus, and what it does is, don't just go taking this without, doing your own
Sure.
research. Now medical advice. But the
Yeah.
thing is with that supplement, like I said, it contains iodine, tyrosine, selenium, pretty much those nutrients like you're talking about to
Uh-huh.
help that T4 to T3 conversion. But then the nice thing it does have, it kind of has this thing from Ayurvedic medicine, which is glandular support. So
Okay.
it has like actual bovine thyroid in it,
Hmm.
which as Ayurvedic medicine shows,
Yeah, and
just
that's good.
like
And then
supports
the
life.
prescription version of that
Oh
is
yeah,
desiccated thyroid, right?
yeah, like
So,
thyroid MP or
yeah,
something like that. Like which
but it's
we
not
also have.
bovine, it's porcine.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
so it's good to note that, because when you're working with some of these meds, kind of figuring out people's religious background and making sure they're
yeah.
not
It's true.
anti. pork or
Yeah.
beef, or because some people don't are vegan, or they just have different religious beliefs on some of these things. So, but minerals like electrolytes, just getting people hydrated with 2.5 liters of water a day and electrolytes, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I feel so much better. And all that's really happening, because maybe their hormones still are off balance on their lab work, but they feel so much better because they're hydrated. And we're mostly water, so the quality of our water is important, as well as making sure we have those electrolytes, to pull the water into the cell.
Yeah.
And that
And
detoxes
that's a
us.
good, yeah, that's a good bridge into the next thing, which I think a lot of women, as you may know, number one, doesn't get enough food in, despite them having weight struggles, and number two, definitely does not get enough protein in. Do you see that a lot? Do you see a lot of women kind of under eating,
Oh,
to
I
not
think
enough
most
protein?
people, humans in general, undereat protein. And I try to tell them,
Yes.
I'm like, listen, and obviously we adopt our values, because you kind of have to practice what you preach.
Yeah.
I want people to look at me, and this isn't vanity, but I
Oh
wanted people
no,
to
you
say,
have
oh,
to.
you're
I mean, you're not
healthy.
just gonna be like, "Yeah, this is health," and then that's,
And then I'm sitting
yeah,
here eating, Taco Bell and Twinkies all night long. It
yeah,
doesn't really work, right? But to your point, it's so important to get enough protein. And the way I try to explain it, and I'm sure you explain it in these similar terms, is the higher your protein is, that it's burning the fat for you. So it's thermogenic. If we
yeah,
have enough protein in our diet, it is actually burning more calories than it's giving to us, right?
yeah. That's a crucial point. I bring that up to some of my clients too, like that thermal effect of food,
Mhm.
and digesting. Essentially, what she's kind of saying, what Samantha's saying is that you can eat a bowl of white rice and you can eat a plate of steak. Essentially, your body's going to digest that food differently, and the way that your body will digest that food, there'll be different calories burned digesting it. And with protein, you'll have higher calories burned digesting that food than like that bowl of white rice,
Mhm.
or even that bowl of like avocado, for example. Like that's a fat. So that's
Right.
important because having enough protein, having a ton of protein in your diet is actually fat burning because your body's pretty much burning calories, digesting that more than any other food or macronutrient, technically you can call it. And so, yeah,
And I almost feel like I'm cheating sometimes, because like I'll eat like kind of not good, right? But I'll eat a whole bunch of protein,
hmm
and then it doesn't affect me, like the
yeah.
the the one Girl Scout cookie or whatever,
Well,
right?
no, so the thing is when you're metabolically healthy, you can have those things and not feel so bad about it because now you're metabolically healthy. And so yeah, that's
One of my
100%.
new favorite tricks, and this isn't the best thing to do from a low toxin standpoint, don't make this your staple of protein, but is like the protein sticks that you can get, if you've seen those. Like,
I've
they make
uh,
organic
uh,
protein sticks that are basically like beef jerky,
okay.
like a healthier version of beef jerky, but so like they have like 7 grams of protein each of them. So like if you're
Mhm.
running low and you want to get an extra, 7 to 14 grams, you can have one or two of those a day.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. And so I want to talk about something too. So you do laboratory testing or not with your
yeah,
patients?
yeah, totally. So, when we balance hormones, like what I say, the main reasons why people kind of come to us are insomnia, so difficulty obtaining or maintaining enough sleep, chronic fatigue, they want to lose weight, or they have brain fog is kind of the other thing that they'll say. So when we do an initial serum panel to see what's going on in the with them, and then we
And
kind
that's
of
going to measure
decide from
like
there.
in that you're measuring like lipids as well and like
Yeah, we
liver
do just a
enzymes.
full general
Okay.
like blood and hormone panel, just the full Monty kind of meat
And
and
you're getting
potatoes.
Here's the key one. You're getting full thyroid panels, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's so many people I test their thyroid and it's like, oh, there you go. It's elevated TGAB, TPO, and it's like, oh, this whole time you're taking levothyroxine, you're taking Synthroid to help with your high TSH, but this whole time you had Hashimoto's. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, the hormone is beneficial, but it's still not correcting the root cause, which is the immune system attack to the thyroid organ or gland, you
The
could say.
best way, the my favorite way to help cure leaky gut, or, the root cause of all these sorts of autoimmune disorders, whether it's
Yeah,
Hashimoto's
or
or
rheumatoid
people who can't.
arthritis, multiple sclerosis, or just any of those, like,
What else comes to mind? People, sometimes I'll see people who can't shed the Epstein-Barr virus. Like
okay,
they've tested positive for like
yeah,
3 years for Epstein-Barr or Lyme disease. Like they can't
yeah,
shed it, right? So I tell them, you need to go to a sauna and just sauna the crap out of yourself for a while,
mhm,
right? Like get tons of, open up the detox pathways. Also staying hydrated, but building, like even if I know you have to do a SIBO protocol, but at the same time, I find that most gut problems get better if you just feed the gut back, like the good bacteria.
mhm,
Okay, meaning like all of a sudden I'm like, you got to eat Greek yogurt. You got to eat, coconut based Greek yogurt so that you're not getting all the dairy.
yeah.
You got to eat, pickles, organic, right? So you're low toxins, but pickles, sauerkraut. You got to eat cucumbers. You got to eat bananas sometimes. Like all these things that sort of, I
For
say,
the
like
for
you
the
think of it as
for
you're
the
building the lining.
yeah. So that's for the autoimmune conditions that you help with, or
This is
just
for
everyone in
anything, to
general.
reverse
Okay,
it, to get rid of it, to prevent it. You just want
that's
to
how you.
build that gut
Yeah,
lining up.
I think the biggest thing, obviously, one of the best things that I like to do personally for people with autoimmune conditions is removing the triggers, which exactly
Hmm.
is you're just doing, telling people to do this instead of that, which is the same thing. But like, like removing like a lot of people like gluten, for example, that's ancient and
Yes,
everyone
gluten
knows
and
that.
dairy. No more
But I think
gluten and dairy.
a lot of the times it's the sink water. It's the
Hmm.
packaged emulsified foods. We're talking about food
Hmm.
additives. We're talking about
People
obviously
cook in
dairy.
plastic all the
Yep,
time.
plastic utensils. I mean, all those things. I mean, it's seed oils, vegetable oils. So we're talking
Hmm.
about grapeseed oil, and we're talking about what's the main one? Palm oil,
But real
um,
quick
canola.
too, Diego, like all these seed oils and things. But to your point, won't you say that there are so many ways to avoid gluten these days?
Yeah, I'd say. Well, I love it because someone's like, I'm gluten free, but then they're not because you're either gluten free or you're not. It's like you're pregnant or you're not pregnant. It's like, so they're like, I'm gluten free, but it's like, oh, well, 2 weeks ago or last week I had some beer or last week I had some bread. And it's like, okay, it's like you're gluten free or you're not. So actually, one thing I do like is that when I test with the GI map
Hmm.
test, which is that, stool test that I like to talk about often, it measures something called anti-gliadin, IgA, which is pretty much like a gluten response to your immune system in your gut. So from that test, I'm really able to see if that individual is actually dealing with a sensitivity to gluten.
Hmm.
Because the unfortunate truth is, this is I know people disagree, especially in functional medicine,
Hmm.
but I think majority of the time, sometimes food testing is unnecessary, and
Hmm.
sometimes I think it could be a scam.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
just me personally, and I've had a lot of success stories, fortunately, through the grace of God. But I just feel
Well, you
that
can kind of overtest
yeah, yeah,
sometimes, right?
and well, the thing is that people will test and then they'll essentially cut out all their foods,
Hmm.
and then it's like, oh, I got all these sensitivities to these foods, but in reality, it's not really that accurate. It's just like
Hmm.
and the thing is a lot of the times that sensitivity comes from like a leaky gut, for example,
Well,
and so
that, or not to interject too much, but with it's the toxins. So it's a lot of the
oh yeah,
times the way, it's not necessarily that the person is allergic to gluten, because people always
mhm.
argue, I'm not allergic to gluten. I can have this.
That's so,
Okay,
so
that's
true. I know what you're
fine.
getting at now. Yeah.
But we grow our gluten, we grow our wheat in this country when it's not organic with Roundup.
Yeah, So
right?
glyphosate,
Like
herbicides, just
glyphosates,
I love
cancer
that.
causing, gut wrenching. I mean, there's a difference when you eat an organic piece of sourdough bread that has gluten in it, but it's organic, so it's not
Yeah,
made with the pesticides, versus a piece of, you know, I'm not going to say a brand name, but one of the big brand name pizzas, on the
yeah,
go,
yeah,
right?
yeah, 100%. And that's the same with like corn for a lot of people, because when you're cooking it or it's GMO,
If it's
it,
organic
yeah,
versus
that
not.
it's
And I can totally feel a difference in my body when I eat something that's organic or not. I think once you've been eating healthier long enough, you can feel the difference.
yeah, I guess this one woman asked, like, she said that her endocrinologist gets upset when she asks to test her antibodies. I got the answer for that, but what would you say? That's a pretty
I
fancy question.
love that you brought that comment up because I've been eyeing that as well and wanting to bring it up because if you're seeing a provider who gets upset with you, oftentimes, unfortunately, it's beneficial to see a uh, more non-insurance carrying provider who also
Yeah.
incorporates
Well,
integrative
I think the
functional
yeah.
medicine.
Well, and a side note, I believe that most doctors aren't actually trying to screw over their patients and clients, obviously. They're human beings just like us. But here's the thing, you got to realize this. They have a job, they got to
Mhm.
get paid. Okay, they have a job,
Well,
they
they
got to
have
get paid.
different
And
protocols,
so,
right?
yeah, so the thing is what they'll do and how this endocrinologist will get paid is by seeing your unstable TSH and T4 labs.
Mhm.
So then they can give you a medication. So then the insurance can give you and provide you that, and then have you go on your way. That's just business, as
Mhm.
some would say, which is unfortunate because it is not care, it is not helping at all, and it's just for profit, not care. So the thing is kind of like what, sorry, I feel like I just cut you off, but you're kind of saying like, they're not really going to change their mind, if that's the way maybe you're saying in terms of like,
I feel like there's been so many conversations, Diego, and I'm sure you've had so many conversations with people. Why hasn't my doctor ever told me this? Why didn't anyone ever tell me this? I
oh
don't
well,
understand. Everything uh my primary care tells me is one thing, and then Samantha, like everything that you're telling me is so different, and I'm so confused. There are protocols to follow. I have worked in insurance carrying practices
well,
before.
yeah, yeah.
You,
I mean,
you
I
know,
worked in the clinic as well. I mean, I did narcotics, I did insulin shots, I did everything. I mean, if people read the story that I had, which is out there, like I worked in everything. I
hmm
did like morphine. I gave out everything.
hmm
I worked in the sick care system. So yeah, keep
no,
going.
I mean, yeah, please interject. I
Yeah,
love to hear it,
yeah, it's like
because
I
we
mean
all,
I did that. I mean I gave cocktails of medications to elderly, to young people, and the here's the thing.
Mhm.
How come when people work with me for 90 days, they have a drastic transformation from the inside out? Their labs are better than ever. They have more energy than ever before, whatever. Words getting mixed up. But how come that happens? But then how come when I give them the cocktail of medications in 3 months they're exactly the same, but in majority of cases worse?
worse, addicted.
Yes.
And to
So
the
I was
point
just
about
saying.
the dopamine, we live in a very addicted society, whether it's addicted to Instagram, addicted to the phone, just being on the phone, addicted to sugar, addicted to drugs and alcohol, right? And I think that working in a psychiatric hospital during graduate school really did me in on, wow, we need to change how we do this.
Yeah, I mean, it was powerful because for a little bit I was stuck in the memory care unit.
Mhm.
And so, obviously, memory care unit, we're talking about Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, and
And I'm
just,
sure you felt like some of these people like were so amazing, like their life when they were younger. Like sometimes they're extraordinarily educated
well,
individuals.
yeah, well, the thing was is that I don't want to get graphic, but I would do the check-ins, I would have to give them the medications, whatever, and they would have an episode because they would
Mhm.
obviously have dementia or Alzheimer's, and they're
Mhm.
thinking that you're someone else, and it's
Mhm.
very painful. So I mean, so
Mhm.
I'm just blessed that that would happen with me and not their kid, because you know how
Mhm.
painful that is. So I mean, I'm thankful that happened to me, but
Mhm.
like someone would come in, I would come in, I'd be like, hey, like, and then do my normal things that I would need to do in terms of giving them the medication that they needed, and they would just flip out, because they live those
Yeah.
extraordinary lives. And I mean, we're talking about people that lived during World War II, so I mean,
Mhm.
some World War, not really World War I, but just kind of after that, and
Yeah.
so you're seeing all these people, they got extraordinary lives. And yeah, it's a sad sight to see, and it's very sad. Obviously, uh that, like, Parkinson's, I've learned a lot about Parkinson's disease. I've learned a lot about pretty much all neurodegenerative diseases, in terms of like the Alzheimer's, the dementia, and then
And I think
yeah.
that's, yeah, what we have to see. We have to see, you have to sort of see, this works in, it's so funny. This comes full circle because it works in my clients too and in our patients, right?
Hmm.
Who have survived a lot of trauma,
Hmm.
right? It's almost like the healthcare providers who are able to get through that segment of, for example, I worked in urology before too, where,
Hmm.
you know, uh, women were having to get all of these vaginal surgeries because for rather than using, getting to the root cause and fixing the hormonal problem,
Yeah.
right? So it's, or people developing cancers, just all these things. It's like, how do we prevent all of these things from happening? Why are they happening? And then with my research, I realized how protective it is for the body to have optimized testosterone levels during the aging process. It's amazing. I have patients who are 90 some years old riding horses 3 or 4 days a week,
That's
you
incredible.
know, and it's because they've been able to maintain their lean muscle mass. They've been able to maintain their bone mass density. So many things come from testosterone
Yeah,
replacement
well,
therapy for men
let's
and for women.
yeah, we'll rattle off some things, because I think educate us on why some of the science behind saying that it's not beneficial to take HRT or bioidentical hormone. Like, do you believe that a lot of that science is just like swayed
I
in a
think,
way?
is it what?
Is it swayed in a way for you not to have vitality? I'm just kidding, but
Yeah, so
like,
fortunately, I think a lot of the pendulum is changing. We're finally
yeah,
getting to
yeah.
an agreement that this isn't this cancer causing scary stuff anymore. And it's kind of like I did a interview years ago, and it was like, something in the 80s happened where we thought that now there are different medications out there. One of my mentors says Premarin cream, right? Pregnant mare urine,
Hmm.
right? So they're not all hormones are created equally. We do have synthetic hormones that come with a lot of risk, including birth control. Okay. So there are different hormone therapies out there that are more risky. Bioidentical hormones are different, they're molecularly different than synthetic hormones.
Mm.
So that's why, now testosterone cypionate is used a lot in men and in women, and the efficacy and the safety of that is pretty advanced because of how much we prescribe it, how often, and we
Yeah.
have a lot of studies on these things. The thing about hormones is that you have to monitor the patient, right?
Hmm.
Like, you need to monitor that the blood isn't getting too
Yeah.
thick. You need to monitor that their levels are within a healthy, studied, optimized range. You need to make sure the patient is reacting okay to everything. And then also, um, but there's ways to safely monitor these things. Also, making sure, for example, that they're getting their annual mammograms, that they're getting these things, that they're calling you, that if they're getting breast tenderness, they call you with the adverse effects, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, it's wild, because I have so many men that would come to me, and they're pretty much, they want to get on, or they are taking testosterone, from wherever, and then they're having all those symptoms of the higher estrogen. And so, that's a big part of what you're saying, is that you do need to monitor not just your testosterone, not just your estrogen when you are taking bioidentical hormone, but you want to test and monitor all those other hormones, because when you influence one hormone, you don't just influence that one, you influence so many
It's
different
the
ones.
whole system.
Yes, so
Yes.
I think that's important, because some people take hormonal supplements, and then I've had women come to me and they take these hormonal supplements and they're causing adverse effects, not because they increase that specific hormone, but by increasing that hormone to increase other things. Like, for example, I had a woman that come to me with a lot of chin acne, obviously a lot of that, and it was because this individual was pumping DHEA capsules in her, and like that's
Mm-hmm.
going to bring your androgens up, that's going to bring testosterone up. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, maybe your DHEA was low, but if your testosterone and your androgens are already high, that's going to cause those pretty much androgen dominant symptoms, which follows with polycystic
Yeah,
ovarian
that's
syndrome,
one thing
PCOS.
that I
Like,
don't love about DHEA as a supplement in
yeah,
general. I try to tell people that this is going to just, once it gets inside your body, not that it can't be supportive for some people, but once it gets in your body, we don't have any guarantee that it's going to become what it's going to become.
yeah. Well,
You know?
I mean, that's why I love the Dutch test, the
Hmm.
dry urinary test of comprehensive hormones, because
Hmm.
it's going to measure all of those hormones
Hmm.
in a very digestible way, but then how well you're metabolizing those hormones in your body. Because, blood work can do the same thing. I just found that with the Dutch hormone test, I'm actually measuring etiochalanolone and androsterone, which are two of the androgens that an individual can have. And I really like looking at it for females, because if those androgens are severely elevated, and then what is called their 5-alpha reductase is elevated too,
Excuse me.
no, you're good. You're good. That really means that they're driving DHT up, which,
Okay.
in super simple terms, it pretty much means that you're dealing with a lot of aggravation, maybe hair
Mhm.
growth in the chin, PCOS symptoms, all in all.
Yeah, I
So,
love that the Dutch does that breakdown. Like on lab work, we're usually just looking at the DHT level,
yeah,
so
exactly.
but the Dutch gives you that beautiful breakdown, and it's a great test for people, especially if they're data driven.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just important to really work with someone, I think, when you are doing any of this. I mean, everything that we're talking about today. I think it's super important, because you can either spend the time and the money wasting all the things, or you can spend the time and the money getting guaranteed results. What do you
Mhm.
want, So it's like you
Mhm.
can either spend the time and the money trying different supplements, doing a bunch of lab work, begging doctors for this and that, because that's not the only question I get on a daily basis. I mean, I have tons of people that come to me. They're like, my doctor won't do this. They won't test this. Well, it's like,
Mhm.
but they're just trying to follow Mayo Clinic, so they're not really concerned.
Yeah,
But
they're
the thing
just
is,
following a
yeah,
protocol. And when people are like, "Well, Samantha, will you ever take insurance as a practice, as a practitioner within your practice?" And we do take insurance for lab work. Um, but my response is, "Don't delete me," right? But
yeah,
I I can't do what I want to do and fit within the cookie cutter boxes of what the companies want me to
yeah.
recommend.
Well, for me personally, like they're not going to get insurance, because they're not going to get results. So it's like, what do you want? Do you want the results, or do you want the insurance? You pick, because you can
Yeah,
go find someone that does what I do, and you can go get an insurance, and then you can try to get results and do your thing. This is why I post results every single day. This is why people get results. This is why people post and say, "Hey, Diego, share this with your audience, because I don't want another
yeah.
woman. I don't want another man suffering." So that's kind of what I say, to these people that are like, "Hey, do you do insurance?" Well, if insurance was lenient and everything, then yeah, I'd love it, but they don't.
Hmm.
Obviously they can do HSA or FSA, or there's a
Hmm.
California one. I don't know off the
It's
top
an
of my head, but they use it.
investment.
Yeah.
I work with people all the time, and sometimes what was it? One of my friends who actually owns a supplement company. I recommended a really good peptide for him, and he was like,
Mhm.
"This is expensive." And I said, "No, it's not an expensive.
Yeah,
Expensive is when something you spend money on something and it exits, right? It's an investment. You're investing in
yeah.
yourself, right? Like I have to pay my for my supplements, my practitioners, my lab work, right? Like
I mean, yeah, talk
you're
about when I gotta pay
choosing,
for it to even get the clinic ticket. Like some of these people, they don't want to
right?
do what I'm doing to just get them to in the door. Like
Yeah.
it's just like, oh man, I mean, yeah, it's wild. It's wild because it's unfortunate because I think some people might not see the value in what I guess we do just because we don't take insurance, which is very
Mhm.
unfortunate. But that's kind of why we have the results and we do what we do. Because I mean, like when you see your clients' results, you got your huge client base in Texas and virtually, I mean, I
Mhm.
got my clients and everything, and we get the results because we don't need to play by the books because the books aren't there to help you win. They're
And
help you
they'll
to
get,
win.
it's like with any of the office stuff, like
Mhm.
patients can get a little frustrated sometimes if, they're confused about where to get this from or that from. But when you get there's nothing better as a practitioner when you have those patients tell you like yours do, Diego, like, wow, my life has changed for the better. I've never felt
Yeah.
better, and I just try to tell the staff to, like, like I said earlier, you just don't know what's going on in someone's life. You have no idea what they've been through. And if we all just lead from the heart and empathy, and like we talked about on our first call, and one of my favorite longevity doctors, Gladys McGreary, she talks about the 5 L's of life: life itself, love, living. I don't know. There's a few, I can't remember what they all five mean off the top of my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my point is that I truly believe this with all the science and all the research that I understand, and quantum physics. And I mean, I could go on, right? And quote statistics, but the greatest healer of all wounds is and always will be love. And that's because when you teach someone how to love themselves, they learn how to take care of themselves.
Mhm.
They learn how to make those decisions to start choosing the foods that will love them back, so to speak.
Yeah.
Choosing the people, surrounding themselves with people, learning to say no, setting boundaries. How many times do you work with clients when you're just simply explaining to them how to say no to things, right?
Yeah. It's definitely a lot. I mean, it is important though. Like I think, yeah, what we talked about in the beginning, it's just the environment and the way that you really value yourself. I
Mhm.
the first step of change is identification. So it's knowing that there needs to be change that needs to happen. And so that's important, and uh I've done a lot of stuff with people that have are pretty much I should say I learned a lot of stuff with like 12 step program, with people that deal with addiction. And so, like we talk about, the first step is change, is pretty much the identification of like that I have an issue and I need help. That is the first step to change. But what is the one thing that humans don't want? Change. So we're fighting the thing that humans don't want, every single day. I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm fighting change, not just change in the medical system, not just change in healthcare,
Mhm.
but change in the individual's life to truly transform from the inside out. And the truth of the matter is, excuse my language, the shit's not easy. It's not easy to invest in yourself. It's not
Yeah.
easy to eat the good food. It's not easy to get the exercise in.
Mhm.
Everything is going to be hard.
Mhm.
It's going to be hard to spend the money to invest in yourself,
Mhm.
but it's also going to be hard to not like what you see in the mirror. It's going to
Mhm.
be hard you wasting the time and the money trying thing after thing. But the good thing
Mhm.
about Earth, the good thing about our life, is that we can choose our hard. So we can
Mhm.
choose the good hard. That's something I radically tell my clients each and every single day, is that we can choose the good hard because the shit's always going to be hard.
Mhm.
It's going to be hard regardless. but you can
And
teach a
also
good one.
that fulfillment, right? Sorry
Mhm. Yeah,
to interrupt, but
yeah,
like the
exactly.
fulfillment from discipline. Like I also will say discipline is a form of love.
Oh, 100%.
Discipline is one of the highest forms of love, and I joke, like, I have a 6-year-old son, right? And I joke that sometimes I feel like when people see us in public, they probably think like, what's wrong with that lady? Why does she sound like a drill sergeant sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
And it's sort of because you have to be strong, whether it's with yourself, your clients, or the people that your loved ones. And sometimes being bold. So, what was it? One of the office manager told me I'm. I had to correct her because she's like said like it was a little bit of a language difference, but I'm small but terrible. Like I keep meaning like um, that you can have power and make impact with people, and that doesn't always mean that you're going to tell them, oh, that's okay, you can do that, that's fine. No. I
Mhm.
did that in Western medicine. We would have visits with people, and the doctor would say, don't tell them they're overweight, that offends people, right? And I think in Western medicine and primary care practices, a lot of times people are afraid to call people out on their BS, to your point. And when you can't call someone else, when you can't tell people, listen, this isn't working for you, we're going to have to make major changes. I mean, I've helped people lose 150 pounds before, right? Like avoiding bariatric surgery. And part of that was me telling her, you're going to have to stop, you know, uh, caring what other people think about you,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
Whether,
it's big. I mean, especially as being like a coach and a practitioner and what we do, some people on the other side of things get scared of doing that to a client because they think they're going to lose them and then they're going to lose, the investment money and all that. But no, I'll be straight up with an individual because if you hired me to change your life, I'm going to change your life. It's not going to be easy, but we will do it. And
Mhm,
that's kind of like what we're talking about. Like you got to do these things. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be
mhm,
worth it. Like you
mhm,
talked about, it's going to be worth it. So the thing is that yeah, the Western conventional medicine is there to give you a pat on the back, to be the best business that it can be, giving you everything you need and love. Take a pill, you're good. But that's unfortunately not how true healing happens or transformation happens. It happens when there's a radical shift in your mindset, your behavior, in
mhm,
everyday life.
mhm, mhm.
And that's not the easy thing to do rather than popping a pill or a
And
medication.
it's ever evolving.
Hmm.
Like we live in a world where there's so much more self improvement, self help,
Yeah.
growth, mindset in our society than maybe we had even maybe 20, 30 years ago, right? It's sort of blossomed in this very beautiful way, and it's great. It's also, I want to mention though, reminding people to have fun. you
Hmm.
know like there's this I have a mantra: am I being childlike or childish?
Hmm.
Right? When people are childish, that's an immaturity issue, right? And a lot of us
Hmm.
do that. We feel sorry for ourselves. We're like, I don't feel like doing my dishes, when we can say, whoop, thank God I have a sink and dishes. There are people who would kill to be able to have their own sink
Yeah.
and dishes.
Well, yeah. I keep, I do, and my clients love it for it, but I keep faith in the forefront of what everything I do. And
Hmm.
like with that being said, like my clients, a lot of them love it. Even if they're not even Christians or spiritual, they still like. I think that higher power is a part of their transformation, and most importantly, the healing. So like I'm like, you got to lean on God because pretty much with man, this is impossible, but with God. all things will be possible here. And so I don't know how much you do that with your practice. I know it's
Well, we take
everyone's
a
different.
holistic approach,
Yeah.
for sure. And Dr. Lisa Miller is amazing. She's, one of the forefront leaders on working with the UN and on the research regarding spirituality and how important it is for our health and well
Hmm.
being. You have to meet people where they're at,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you take that
Yeah.
approach as well. Like, no judgment. I am who I am. I have my beliefs. You have your beliefs. Let's see where we can be on the same page. And um, so, and definitely, again, leading with love and leading with integrity. Some of the most profound entrepreneurs and leaders that I've worked with have also been, the type of people who've sent me a voice memo of a prayer,
Yeah.
so.
Well, it is a leap of faith. I mean, I think that's kind of why I use it so much because
Mhm,
like I said, I got trench experience.
mhm,
I've been through it. I've been through a lot of stuff. So it's like I can even though I'm a male and I'm working with females, they're older than me a lot.
mhm,
Like they empathize with me very well because I get the struggle. Like I know. I mean, watching my mom and all the things
mhm.
like because I get it. Okay, so that's how I'm able to, like I said, first and foremost, help
And
that
usually,
transformation.
yeah,
Yeah.
usually the darkest, or how do I say this? Sorry to interrupt you, but
No, you're
usually the
good.
people who've gone through the darkest times, okay, I'm saying this the other way. Okay, usually the brightest lights have been through the darkest times.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's real world stuff.
Mhm,
You know, we're out here. I'm doing it for these people. I'm doing it for my clients. I love them, and they're getting the transformations. They're telling their friends, and we do our thing. But yeah, yeah, what we're talking about, you got to have that faith. You got to have faith in someone that you could heal. Like the first thing I like to tell my client is, after they commit to what we're doing here, they say yes, I'm in, and they go. The first thing I'm like is, hey, get some sleep
mhm,
tonight because you're not in this alone anymore. And all of a
mhm,
sudden, things start to shift. And this is why within 1 week, people post their transformations with me already. And I think a lot of that is a stress relief that an individual has because they finally have someone there vouching for them, there for them.
mhm,
And that's important because when you go into a dark, cold room
mhm,
and you're waiting for a doctor and you're just there with a right on the prescription pad, 8 minutes, that
mhm,
doesn't help. But when you have someone there for you, giving you the empathy, like you had mentioned, you give them the support,
mhm,
obviously the knowledge and the application, but then also just the emotional, more to say, I don't want to say, but intelligence in terms of being there for them, caring for them, and actually wanting them to get better. That really gives that person the empowerment and
mhm,
pretty much a huge lift off of stress and anxiety because this whole time they were fighting alone, they felt unheard, they didn't know what to do, and they finally have the answers, the path, and the way to go. And
mhm,
so that's important. That's why I love having these conversations with people like you. And I try to put myself out there to get more people like you into my network and getting people that need the help out there because it's super important what we do. I know it's at the end of the day, it might seem funny and foolish. I mean, I'm over here and I got a business and I use Instagram.com for my business. And it might seem like it's just like whatever, but this is how it works nowadays sometimes and this is real world stuff and I want people
Yeah,
to understand
there's
that.
all these different ways to reach people, and I think
Yeah,
it's a beautiful way to reach people,
exactly.
little by little, right? And I feel the same way. I go through periods of time where I can be really quiet
Hmm.
and not real active on social media, and then I've realized that that's the ego too, right? Feeling like it needs to
Yeah.
protect itself.
Hey, full transparency. It's not easy being on social media all the time. I mean,
Hmm.
if people follow me, they know how much I post. They know how much I indulge in what I can when I have the time. Because legitimately, when I'm not on the social media, I'm coaching all my clients.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it's definitely not easy. But yeah,
It's important spread the message of wellness, that there are answers, and that if you are feeling crappy or not sleeping right, or all these things, because dis-ease in the body, right? Dis-ease, being uncomfortable, leads to disease, right?
Yeah.
So when uh, we have to totally erase the idea of not listening to our bodies, and I think that's what you and I teach people a lot, is for the first time we're like, no, let's listen to it. What's it telling you? Right? And
Yeah.
just giving that person a voice and that acknowledgement that they're not crazy for their symptoms. Oh, there's nothing wrong with me, you're fine, just
Yeah.
eat more fruits and vegetables and drink more
Yeah.
water. uh don't watch your phone so much, something like that.
It
That's,
just generic. Yeah.
it doesn't stick when we're eye to eye, heart to heart with people. Like, listen, what's really going on? How can we really help you feel supported and changed? And that, to me, like in ancient medicine, is why we started medicine. Like, was to help people heal.
Well, yeah. I mean, I actually, it was like, I think last week, I got into a little history lesson with my clients, and we talked about the early 1900s, and how, unfortunately, they kind of wiped out all of natural healing. The first billionaire, that was John Rockefeller, actually pretty much instituted the first medical institution. And that's kind of when all natural remedies and
Well,
medicine
I mean,
really.
and we it's okay. We won't say anything bad about the Rockefellers, but
Yeah, yeah.
but
I mean, I
I
don't care. I
think,
mean, I already got.
to
I
to
mean, me
your
personally.
point, there's
Yeah,
these indoctrinations, there's these
yeah,
protocols, there's these pharmaceutical, there's companies, there's
yeah, yeah.
there's
Whichever
all
one,
these
but yeah,
things.
yeah.
It, you know, and they come together, and then, to your point, even I have an indigenous side to me that people don't really see at first glance, but I have a lot of Native American in my family.
Hmm.
And so, walking barefoot and grounding and earthing is now proven to reduce inflammation in the body. So now we have all these things that plug into the house that emulate grounding. But really, we need to be walking around barefoot. It's that simple,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There's a lot
Being
of
in
different things.
nature, getting our
Yeah.
hands dirty, realizing that, and this is what I love about Austin, Texas, is there's such a forefront of holistic healing here. And becoming friends with people who are in Chinese medicine, who do adopt all these different ways of life and thinking, and indigenous cultures, and what kind of natural herbs that are used, and Ayurvedic medicine, like you mentioned, and just bringing it all together to formulate these incredible protocols that make life-changing impact, not only to that person, but to their children, to their grandchildren, to their brothers and sisters, their moms and dads, and
Hmm.
for generations to come. Because this is the future, is, Diego, that we're just returning to our more natural ways,
Yeah, 100%, hundred
you
percent.
know, of listening to ourselves and connecting with each other in community, and spreading the word. But we could talk all day and night, I'm
Yeah,
sure, and I'm grateful for whoever's listening and who will listen, and I'm
yeah,
grateful for your time. So thank you so
yeah.
much.
So how about you tell my audience what they can do to see your content and then possibly, work with you, and what do you have? So, list off
Oh,
your
thank you.
website.
Yeah, so you can visit us at happybodyatx.com. That's where you can contact us. You'll find our website, our clinic address, and or you can DM me. We also have a Happy Body ATX Instagram. You can reach out there. You can call or text our phone number, which is listed on our website, happybodyatx.com. And that's kind of it. That's our spiel. That's who we
For,
are. We just are
for sure.
dedicated to helping people live their healthiest, happiest, most confident life. And how about you, Diego? Is the best way for people to reach out to you through Instagram or?
Yeah, Instagram would be best. I have many different other platforms, but my Instagram, Diego Reyes Health. That's pretty much it. All lowercase, one word. I do have a YouTube, Diego Reyes 04. And then I have a website, www.completevitalitylife.com. But the best way is to just message me on Instagram and I'll definitely get back to you. Um, and then you'll also see on my website that you'll have other forms of contacting me with my email and my personal cell. So that's the best ways to get with me.
Awesome. Well, thank you
All
again, and we'll have to
right.
do this again sometime.
Oh, we will. We will. Hey, I'm actually I'm going to Texas. I got to get to Texas because
Okay.
I got a plethora of clients in Texas that want to see me. I got to check out Texas again because I just absolutely loved it the first time I went down there. I went to Austin. It was back in the fall. It was just beautiful for me. I loved it, and yeah, I'm looking to go down there again. I got
Well, I
several
won't
different
rub it
areas.
in, but the weather
Yeah.
is
Because
probably
right now I'm looking
the
outside and,
best it's
it, and
ever
it, I got
been.
plow trucks coming in, the Midwest life. It's just snow and yeah, Minnesota, you know how it
Yeah,
is.
come
But
get some fresh air. We'll introduce you to all the woo woo people we have down here.
yeah, that I do remember that when I was in Austin, it was like that. But all right, Samantha, I won't take up too much of your
All
time,
right.
so
No, thank
we'll
you so
talk soon. All
much.
right,
And thanks everybody who's tuned in and who will listen to us. And hopefully we're all learning together.
all right.
Take care, Diego.